Ladies and gentlemen, I am live. Welcome back to That's Right, I Said It, a channel where I talk about all things addiction, but mainly Kratom. Well, why Kratom, you ask? I'm glad you asked. Because Kratom, for me personally, now that I'm 4 days off of it, I'm gaining some clarity on certain things in my, I guess, sober mindset. And one of the biggest issues with Kratom is its availability. In my state of North Carolina, it's completely available. It's completely legal. Not only legal and available, but available in tons of places. And I've talked about this before on the channel, how, I'll go out shopping with my wife on Saturday. We'll go do grocery shopping or whatever, and we'll, park in a grocery store parking lot somewhere, and I can literally, without binoculars, look to my east, look to my west, look over there to the south, and I can see 2-3 head shops or shops where you can legally buy Kratom within my immediate line of sight, and so I think that's one of the reasons that it's become such an epidemic in our country, is because it is still federally legal. And listen, I've said from the beginning, I'm not going to be a person that gets on here and campaigns against Kratom. Some people need it. There's people out there that are coming off of things like fentanyl, heroin, much more dangerous, harder opiates, and using something like Kratom to come off of that. And maybe that's okay for those people. Or if it's someone who experiences chronic physical pain on a daily basis, maybe Kratom's okay for that person. But I'm one of those people that feels like if you're taking it just for a buzz, or if you're taking it just for a mood lift, and especially if you are a person who has a history with substance abuse, Kratom will absolutely become a slippery slope for you eventually. Okay? And that's kind of why I'm here. So I'm not here to, wag my finger at people who are still using Kratom or still on Kratom. I'm not better than anyone. Like I said, when if you just go back to the beginning of when I created this channel, you can easily see, my struggle where I was on the fence, then off the fence, on the fence, off the fence. And I'm only 4 days clean off of it at this point. So, I'm definitely sitting on no high throne of judgment. Well, all hail to the king. I've been sober for 4 days. No, no. I mean, I could relapse tomorrow. I'm not gonna, and I don't plan on doing that. But there's a reality of it, and I think that the availability is one of the big issues and one of the biggest concerns. Because when I was 15 years ago, when I was struggling with my addiction to painkillers, Vicodins, Percocets, things like that, there weren't but so many places and sources where I could go to get those things, and it, led me down a path of deceit and destruction, where I was taking medications that did not belong to me and that were not prescribed to me, stealing medications from people. So for me, that's absolutely where addiction took me. And when I started using Kratom, it was just to get a buzz. I didn't have any physical pain to speak of. I didn't have any excuse there. Any depression or anxiety that I might have been experiencing in my life, I can't say that I was experiencing that from a sober mind state. And looking back on it now, in retrospect, I would actually argue that I was probably creating a lot of my own anxiety and depression in life. By what? By always using substances to curtail my mindset and to change my mindset, or to lift my mood, or to just completely take myself out of reality and not living life on life's terms, but living life based on what I wanted life to be, right? Or what I thought life would be, you know, almost trying to, as a sense of having lost control, almost trying to gain control of everything around you by, well, if everything's all fucked up, then I'll just take myself out of my own normal mind state, and then I just won't care. It won't affect me. You know, you can't hurt me if I'm not mentally present or emotionally present, right? But as we know, all of that comes with a cost, and that's what I talk about on this channel. So if you enjoy that, you enjoy the transparency at which I talk about these things, hit that subscribe button. Don't be the person that takes the candy from the jar up by the cash register, and then when no one's looking, nah, don't do that. You know, that will be a typical drug addict move. You know, don't be a typical drug addict. Hit the subscribe button if you enjoy it, and that's the only payment that I ask of you. Well, and leave a comment. Tell me your story. You know, use this channel as your accountability mirror. How am I doing? 4 days off Kratom. Pretty good. I think my daytimes, I'm pretty much, I feel pretty squared away, you know, other than I just have moments where I'm like, damn, I'm bored. You know, because you get used to using on a regular basis and used to anticipating that next dose of your Kratom, you know, and that's not just a physical sensation, but that's a repetitive mental and emotional stimulus that affects you just on an ongoing basis. You know, you get to the times where when I first wake up in the morning, that's a tough one, you know, in my during my heavy Kratom use, that's the first thing I did, you know, because when I woke up in the morning, I was feeling somewhat like shit, right? Because I'd been the whole night without Kratom. And as you know, when you put those extended periods of time without Kratom onto the calendar every day, you start to go through physical and emotional withdrawals, right? And so I would wake up in the morning and I would be like, oh, I feel like shit. First thing I would do, you know, walk over to my closet, pull out my drawer in the closet, you know, pop down a couple of capsules, or more than a couple. If I were just popping down a couple of capsules, I may not have gotten in the situation I got myself in, right? But that was the first thing I did. And so I find that throughout the day, you know, I'll have times where I'm like, what do I do now? Sort of thing, you know, and I'll find myself kind of thinking about it a little bit, but hey, not going back. No turning back now. But I'm definitely not sitting in a place of judgment on this channel, because if you go back to the very beginning, when I first started this channel, I literally started this channel, I think it was the day that I took my very last dose of MIT 45, right? And I was heavily addicted to the MIT 45s. I had come off of MIT 45s in a cold turkey situation the year before. I was not working at the time. I had been laid off from a previous job, so I had about a 2-month window there where I was getting paid a severance package every day. So I was getting paid a salary, but I didn't have to be up and be at work every day. So I used that opportunity to come off of Kratom. But like an idiot, you know, about a month passed and I started using again. And then, you know, about another year and a half passed on the MIT 45s. And eventually I was just like, enough's enough. I want to change this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so I started this channel kind of as my own accountability mirror. And, you know, over time, people like what they see. They realize that we are here to encourage. You know, we are not here to put our thumb on anyone who is not exactly where we are in their process of cold turkey, tapering, quitting, recovery, whatever it is. You know, you want people to come back. You want people to come back so they can use this as an accountability mirror. So I audit and edit the community guidelines in here quite frequently. I haven't had to. recently because I just have just wonderful group of subscribers. And, you know, everybody on here is really supportive. Everyone really respects one another. And everyone really wants to see other people do well and succeed in life, you know, and with, you know, beating their addiction. And so I haven't had to do that much recently. A little bit in the beginning, I had to block a few people and put a few people on blast, a few trolls, stuff like that. And no shame in my game, brother. I don't mind doing that. In fact, I rather enjoy that challenge. So, but fortunately, hadn't had to do that recently. But if you've watched my videos from the beginning, you know, I was on the fence, off the fence, on the fence, off the fence, and I would get almost off of Kratom. That happened one time where I got down to 2.5 grams of Kratom, and then like an addict would, like any good addict would, I found an excuse to go back on it with the surprise birth of my son, right? I used for about another 2 months after that, and then I went on a pretty, you know, I wouldn't say quick, but it was about a 3-week long taper. And now I'm 4 days off. So how am I doing? Pretty good. My daytimes are pretty good. My energy's pretty good. During this process of tapering and then coming off, I had been using like kava and stuff like that to kind of help with sleep. I didn't want that to become a slippery slope for me, although I don't really jones for kava. You know, the feeling of it, to me personally, is not great enough to where I'm just like, oh, give me some of that kava. Tie my arm off. Shoot me up. You know, shoot the kava right into my veins. Whereas with Kratom, other opiates, I was kind of like that. Although you can't shoot a powder into your veins, but I would have, if I could have. If they could have made something where I could take that ground up Kratom and just right into my veins, I absolutely would have done it. Well, no, I wouldn't. But the point being, Kratom is much more highly addictive, in my opinion, than something like kava. Although people do claim that kava has some addictive properties. With that, the point I'm getting at is I've used kava some through my taper, and I've used it the first couple of days after completely coming off the Kratom, just to make sure, because I know it does help a little bit with the withdrawal symptoms, just to make sure that I was still able to get a little bit of sleep and stuff like that. Well, yesterday I didn't take any. Well, I did. I took a little bit in the morning time, and that was all I had. And then the rest of the afternoon and the evening, I didn't take any kava at all. So I didn't take any nightly dose of kava. You know, I'm not sleeping perfectly at this point. It's only been, you know, coming up on 4 full days now that I've been off of Kratom. So I'm not sleeping perfectly. But you know, that kind of thing takes a little time. The physical manifestations of the withdrawals have definitely decreased a lot. You know, I still have some moments where I'm kind of like, oh, you know, just feeling a little bit of discomfort kind of in the chest, and just a little bit of the, in general, insomnia that you experience with coming off of something like that. It's not that bad. It's not too detrimental because I did do a taper, you know. So I've only been officially off. You have to look at it this way. I've only been officially off of the Kratom for going on 4 days now, but I've been below, you know, 4 grams, 3 grams a day for probably a couple of weeks, right? So as you taper and chop it down slowly like that, that's one of the beauties about tapering off of something like this, is in effect you kind of trick your mind and your body, you know, into kind of resetting itself gradually, little by little, as you know, slightly decrease your dose every day. Whereas if you're up here taking 20 grams per day and you just all of a sudden stop and you're not taking any, then this is how much withdrawal you're gonna have. My fingers won't reach, right? But if you're taking 20 grams per day and you start to taper, and you start your taper on 19, then this is how much withdrawal you have. right? Is that making sense? That makes sense, right? I mean, I know I'm not good at math. I showed that yesterday. Trying to figure out how many hours I've been off of Kratom. So let me see if I can figure that out now. 4 days will be 96 hours. I'm about 7 hours from being 96. So 89 hours. I'm at 89 hours right now off of Kratom. So doing pretty good. Just, you know, kind of a little bit of cravings, and not so much cravings as much as, like, you know, the boredom is a little bit more palpable, because you're used to kind of taking yourself out of your own natural state of mind by using something like Kratom, and using it to kind of get this fake elevated mood, right? But as we know, that stuff comes with a cost. I've talked about it on here relentlessly. Your body's reaction to that is to shut down dopamine production. So then when you go to come off of it, or curtail or lessen your use, you end up in a dopamine depletion mode, which feels very much like depression, to be honest. Low energy and depression. And that's a really tough one for people. And I think that's also one of the reasons that addiction is really hard to beat and come off of. So I'm going to stop yapping, because what ends up happening is I yap for 25, 30 minutes. And then when I go to, you know, address people's comments, I'm like, oh shit, I only got 4 minutes left. I don't want it to be like that. For the people, by the people. You know, I want you guys to have a voice. I want you guys to have a platform on here. I think that's important for people who are trying to make changes. And I want to read a couple of comments, and then I'm going to go through a couple of aspects of, like, you know, NA and AA. And I know there are online NA and AA communities, and I'm not trying to be that necessarily, you know, and you know, so I don't want anybody to come after me after that. But let's get honest. You know, NA, AA for years and years and years and years and years and years have been helping people not only get sober, but remain sober. So obviously those groups are onto something, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong at all with, you know, looking at, like, the 12 steps. I'm going to talk about the serenity prayer stuff. I'm not going to go through all the 12 steps today. We'll kind of break it down into a series, you know, and talk about how those 12 steps relate to you, your life, and your addiction, all those things. But the serenity prayer, and at least the first step in NA, I will definitely talk about today. So I want to read this out to you just to give you some thought. Reward drives the behavior. So if you ask someone who has good willpower and good habits, well, why do you exercise, or why do you eat right? What do you think their answer is going to be? Because it feels good. You know, somebody asked me why I like to exercise. Well, yeah, I like to exercise, but I don't like to exercise because exercise itself intrinsically just feels good. Because, you know, when I'm in my 4th mile or my 5th mile running around my neighborhood and it's 95 degrees outside and I'm sweating profusely, and it does not feel good, right? But the result feels good. The good feeling that I get after it is over with, the dopamine fix that I get after, the natural mood lift, and the sense of well-being in my body that I get after the exercise. That's what I'm after, right? And so, you know, when you look at that in terms of drug addiction, well, why do people do the bad habits? Why do people do the drugs? Well, for the same reason. Because it feels good, right? But you're not getting it naturally anymore. And that comes with a cost. And eventually, your body, physically, your mind, mentally, is going to have to pay the piper. Once you come off, pay the piper, brother or sister. Pay the piper, you know? And that's when the low mood, the depression, all that stuff comes. But that's a temporary condition. Understand? And it does get better. So I want to read Lula's comment the other day. I said yesterday on the video I was going to try to get to this. Nice job, Corey. I know the monkey on my back is a different kind, but I still love watching your videos. They give me hope. And between you and your subscribers, I've found a lot of support. My subscribers are freaking awesome. That's why, Lula. And I appreciate you coming back as well. I'm still trying, she put in quotes, trying to taper my hydrocodone use. Overall, I'm doing better, but every now and then I spike and I take more. I can't have excess in my possession, that's for sure. I never knew starting something a doctor prescribed me would lead to this hell. This hell in capital letters. I want off so badly, but I've been taking them so long that the withdrawal is hellish. I've read the older you get, and the more times you withdraw, the harder it becomes. Truth, she says. I know there is no magic pill, no miracle drug or supplement that's going to help 100%. We always have to pay the piper. Yeah, exactly. I've talked about that a lot the last couple of days. I just have to keep pecking away and get as low as I can and see if Kratom will help. Right now, unless I take an ungodly amount of capsules, which in turn makes me sick, the Kratom isn't really my friend. I think I need to be on a lower dose of hydrocodone before Kratom will help me. Were any of you guys on a pretty hefty dose of pain meds and used Kratom to come off? If so, how much and what strain did you use? And did you wind up in the Kratom pickle? I like to call it the Kratom trap. Try to stop a certain point and couldn't? Question mark. And that, if you're addicted to something like Vicodin, I think a first and foremost concern should probably be, if you trade that for Kratom, then developing, obviously, I think developing an addiction to Kratom is just a kind of a given, to be honest with you, if you're already addicted to Vicodin. There's been so little research done on Kratom and how the long-term use of Kratom really affects people physically and mentally. I think the prevailing theory at this point is that it's probably not as bad as Vicodin or something like that. And I know Vicodins and Percocets and stuff, especially with the acetaminophen that is in those, that is known to be really tough on the liver, really tough on the kidneys, that sort of thing. So not saying that Kratom is, healthy for any of those organs in your body by any stretch, but it's just kind of the jury's still out, so it's kind of like you pick your poison, you're kind of playing Russian roulette with either. But what I will say to you, Lula, is given the fact that you really struggle to use the Kratom and that it kind of makes you sick, I wouldn't be upset at all to see you go to your doctor about this. And I've shared this story before on this channel, but there was a time in my past where when I got the most heavy on my Percocet addiction, I was actually getting a prescription for 120 Percocet a month. Complete 100% neglect on the part of the physician that prescribed me 120 10 milligram Percocets per month without even doing any test on me. No ultrasounds, no CAT scans, nothing to actually confirm and affirm that I was telling the truth about whatever pain I was, expressing that I was experiencing, right? So, anyway, I'm not going to go into all that. That's neither here nor there. But I ended up writing my doctor a note and letting them know that I was abusing. It was nothing but the hand of God and my faith and my belief that caused God to, I think, reach down and affect me in a way to cause me to do that. I typed up a note, sent it to my doctor, said, don't give me any more of these pills. I've been abusing them. And so they didn't. And that was one of the times that I actually did a cold turkey and came off of Percocet. And it was hell. It was hell. For about a good at least 2 weeks of my life, it was a physical hell. Well, I would say 7 to 10 days was a physical hell. For about 14 days, it was a physical hell, and then the last maybe 4 to 5 days of that, up until the 2 week mark, I had insomnia and I couldn't sleep, right? So after about 2 weeks, most of the physical kind of subsided, and then, you know, the mental aspect of the long-term post-acute withdrawals kind of took over. But listen, I'm not suggesting that you do that. You know, sometimes sometimes you have to go to the extreme, you know, when you're living life or you have an addiction that is extreme. Sometimes it requires an extreme response, you know, to curtail that, to get off of it. And that's what I did at that time. It was the right thing for me at that time, because I am absolutely convinced that I would have killed myself on those Percocets. And I've shared before, and taking that in such high amounts, how horrible the respiratory suppression and things like that was. I wouldn't mind seeing you go to a doctor, Lula, and just let your doctor know, you know, what kind of amounts you're up to. I know it's, you know, somewhat embarrassing, somewhat humiliating. A lot of people see it as kind of, you know, I don't want to appear weak. They think it's weak to, you know, have become addicted to something. But listen, if getting off of it, like you said here, you know, you want off really badly. You said, I want off so badly, but I've been taking them so long that the withdrawal is hellish. Listen, a doctor can help you with those things, and a doctor can help you to kind of wean you off, you know, give you a blueprint to wean you off, and can probably help give you some more medications, you know, to help wean you off of something like this, right? Some Suboxone, which is something that the half-life is, you know, completely different, and it has a much longer half-life. And, you know, be aware that there are withdrawals associated with Suboxone as well, but at least it's getting you off, you know, the harder opiates that you're pounding your body and your mind with every day. And in more extreme cases like this, you know, go see your doctor, tell them everything, you know, and they, you know, they take that Hippocratic oath. Am I completely butchering that? I'm probably completely butchering that, but they have to take an oath, right? You know, the doctor's not going to go out in the parking lot after you leave. You know, after you walk out of the office, they're not going to gather all their employees together in the parking lot and pick up a megaphone and, Lula's an addict. She was up to blah, 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 blah Vicodins per day. That would be messed up if they did. That's not going to happen to you, right? They take an oath, and I guarantee you they've seen worse. And there's all kinds of things that doctors have seen on a regular basis, and that's what they're there for, you know. And the doctor who prescribed you those, you know, wasn't purposely trying to put you in this situation, you know. So I don't know if you're still seeing the same doctor. I'm assuming you are, if you're still getting the Vicodins. But hey, go to them and let them know, I'm taking this amount. They're not really necessary for me anymore. And I don't know where you are with that. You know, obviously you're being prescribed them. So the doctor is obviously under the assumption that you have a justified need to take these medications, right? And I haven't, you know, I haven't sat down and had a extensive conversation with you about what that supposed need is, or whether there is actually a need. And whether you do really have some physical pain that warrants something as strong as Vicodin, you know, because if that's the case, then obviously my answer, our response to this may be a little bit different. But I will say in this case, go see a doctor. I feel like you should go see a doctor about it. And, you know, let me know your thoughts on that. Because if you can't take the Kratom, and it really bothers your stomach, you know, I just don't know if that's the move anyway, because Kratom is super unregulated. You know, a person can go buy as much as they want of it and take as much as they want at one time. And we also, it's hard to nail down, you know, how the amount of Vicodin that you're taking per day stacks up against how much Kratom you should take in a given day. We just don't really know. So I will say possibly go see your doctor. I don't always recommend that to people, but in this case, I mean, I think it's a good move. You know, you sound like you're ready. I don't hear from you for a couple of weeks, but then you'll pop back up on the channel. You're like, I'm still here, I'm still there. And you know, I get it. I completely understand. I've been there even worse than where you are, Lula. So this is definitely not coming from a place of judgment. It's coming from a place of, I love you as a person, even though I've never met you, and I want to see you get this monkey off your back so badly, and I can tell how badly you want it too. And you know, that's what doctors are there for. That's why God put them here, you know. So confide in your doctor and see if you can get a plan together. Swallow your pride, get with your doctor, get a plan together, see if you can't get off these, okay? And stop back by, let me know how you can help, okay? Or how we can help you. I wrote this down. I jot down all these little things that I just want to tell you guys and elaborate on. Addiction is an attempt to escape degrees of trauma incurred in childhood, whether it be bullying, sexual abuse, physical or psychological abuse. That's a good one. That's a good one. I've shared a little bit on this channel how I, you know, experienced a little bit of bullying when I was young. It wasn't anything really severe, but it was a very pivotal moment, I think, in my young adolescence when I experienced it, just because how sensitive of a kid I was, you know. And I think that definitely in a lot of ways affected me and is what caused me to try to want to fit in. And well, if I can't fit in this way, I'll fit in by being a little ladies man, you know. Or if these bullies don't like me, I'll show them how cool I am by smoking a cigarette or getting drunk at a party. Or I'll show them what kind of cool kid I am by, you know, going and destructing mailboxes and destructing people's property or stealing clothes from us. I did stuff like that. I was acting out as a kid, you know. And I think that definitely is a strong indication as to why I fell into substance abuse the way I did. But anyway, let's see. I want to read one more really quickly, and this is from Jasmine Marie Darling. Happy you are doing well. I don't know, man. When I quit the last 2 times, I was in horrific pain. I was taking all the vitamins and the supplements, trying to run. I couldn't breathe right after quitting Kratom. Wim Hof breathing, cold showers, accountability meetings online, etc. But the pain and sickness was really, really bad. Weird electric pains in my arms and legs, no sleep for weeks. You look like you're not really sick at all. Maybe it's because I've taken it for 10 years now, high dosages. And I quit cold turkey or tiny taper. I'm not exactly sure what you meant by that, but she says next, but quitting is horrific for me. I'm trying to do a long taper this time. Maybe it won't be so bad. Very happy for you. If I was you, I wouldn't go back to it. Thanks for your inspiration. Thank you so much, Jasmine. And I don't plan on going back to it. Again, pink cloud phase, you know, that's always in the back of my mind. And I know there's going to come a time where I'm going to drive by a head shop or be close to one, and I'm going to be thinking, oh man, it will be so easy to run in there and just like grab myself a quick like Kratom extract pill, and I promise I won't take any more after that. And, yeah, right, dude. I know it's bound to happen eventually. I'm at 34 minutes, so I'm gonna have to go. But Jasmine, I will say try the long taper. Longer taper is better. You know, look in the comments, look in the rest of my videos. There's tons of discussion on here about things that you can use at night. You know, melatonin, magnesium, vitamin C. Some people use kava. People have reported going to doctors and getting gabapentin. That really helps, like with the withdrawals and stuff like that. Maybe you want to consider that. Maybe consider going to a doctor since you're at such a high dose. But definitely a slower taper is better. problem is a lot of people report they can't do the tapers that well, because that's a lot of hours, days, minutes, you know, to become weak and then take a higher amount. If you're a person that's going to do a slow taper, you have to set yourself a hard stop, and you have to be one of those people that make yourself stick to the taper, right? You know, again, I know you said the exercise supplements and you tried all that. Hey, doesn't mean, and the breathing and all that, doesn't mean that that stuff doesn't work just because you struggle with it. You know, maybe you were trying to taper too fast. You know, maybe it's something because you've been on it at higher doses for a long period of time. Maybe it's going to take you a little more time with your taper. But listen, we are here for you to help get you through this. Pop back on the channel anytime. Guys, jump in these comments. Use this channel as your accountability mirror. And I want to read the first step of NA real quick. We admitted that we are powerless over our addiction, that our lives have become unmanageable. Steps 2, 3 through 12, it doesn't matter if you haven't admitted that you're powerless over your addiction, right? I mean, what does steps 2 through 12 matter if you haven't first admitted that you have a problem, right? Work on that one first. Ponder that one first, right? If you don't have anything to fix, you're not going to go about fixing it or even trying to fix it. Am I right? Ding, 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 ding. What do we have for him, Alex? Love you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. And like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. I will see you next time. All right, peace.